Hi, my name is Steffen Balslev and I'm from the Developer Tools team in Business Central. For the next few minutes, I'm going to go through some of the language changes that had happened in the 2024 Wave 2 release. I'm not going to go into detail with all the different changes. There are other sessions for that, but I am going to give you that overview so you can quickly dive into the things that interest you most. We have quite some things to cover, so let's dive right into our favorite tool, VS Code. So the first thing I want to talk about is tables. Let's look at what changed in tables. So on tables, you'll now find a new property for fields that's called optimized for text search. The idea is that you can specify which fields should be indexed for optimized text search. You can find the same information about the field in the field ref. So you have the is optimized for search property. And in the fields record, you can find the optimized for search property also. Moving on, let's start with something that you cannot use. So there's a new page type called configuration dialog. It's part of our AI investment. For now, you cannot use it. Until we get this done, you cannot use it, but you'll see it in the code and you might try to use it and get this kind of error. So here you see the feature is under development and cannot be used. We hope to see it live very soon. Moving on. So you'll now find also that on pages, on more pages than before, on the card pages, list plus pages, and document pages, you can use the prompting actions, allowing you to showcase the nice Copilot features that you have created in the different card types. On pages, you can now also use the style enum, the page style enum. The page style enum is a way for us to get away from these hard-coded favorable, unfavorable, and so forth style expressions. You can use the page style like this. You have a format of a certain page style, and then that goes into a variable that you put on the field. The value of the style expression still needs to be a string because it is an expression. But now you don't have to have these labels lying around. Very good. Profile extensions. You can now extend profiles with additional customizations if you want to, allowing you to build on existing profiles instead of having to copy and create new ones. And for the customizations, the page customizations, there are new properties. There are 3 new properties of interest here: the clear layout, clear actions, and clear view. And they do kind of what they say. The clear layout clears all the layout in the page, and you'll have to re-add all the fields that you feel are relevant for this page. So it'll be empty to begin with, and then you add the additional fields. Clear actions does the same thing, clears all the actions in the page, and you'll have to add all the actions that should be available to the user. And for list pages, you can also use the clear views to clear all the existing views. One caveat though, if you try to use one of these clear methods on a page customization that is used in a role customization, then you'll get an error. Like this scenario here, we try to use the clear layout in this page customization, and then this profile extension over here will start failing. Let's undo that again so we don't have to look at that error. Okay, moving on to query. For queries, you can now add tooltips. The tooltips will help your users understand what the data is used for and how they should read it. Also, of course, it supports tooltip ML. Queries can now also be saved as JSON. This allows you to easily send data back and forth as JSON. Interfaces has gone through quite a lot. You can now extend interfaces, so instead of having to move to a completely new interface, you can now build on top of an existing interface and expand it with more methods. There are new keywords is and as. There's a whole session for working with interfaces. Go check that out. It's very interesting to see what we can do now with interfaces and how that can build the modularization and modular code base of the future. As part of the work with interfaces, we have added list of interfaces. In the last release, we added list of in and out stream and file upload, and now we extended with the list of interfaces. Naturally, the next thing is to have a list of code units, so we also added that one. And as you can see here, it's easy to loop through a list of code units and use them in an interface with a simple casting here. If you try to assign a code unit to an interface that doesn't implement that interface, then obviously you would get an error. As we see here, it cannot be converted. Moving on to some more interesting stuff for the people working with dates and times. We have to ask ourselves every now and then if it is Friday. In AL, we can ask if it's Friday like this. This is how we've been doing it for many years. Now we have additional properties on the date, date time, and time types that will allow us to make much easier logic here. In this case, we can ask if it's the 5th day, so the day of week is 5, then it's Friday. And we can find the values of the day of week here on the .NET side for the system day of week type. We can do lots more with these types. We can ask about the month and the day and the year if we want to do some more complicated calculations here on whether or not it's Friday. And of course, we can always ask ourselves if it's time to go have a drink, and you can look at the hour, the minute, the second, and the millisecond on the time types. Let's look at the last part here. So we've added this to the language. This is a self-reference. So with this, you can reference the object that you're currently in. In this case, I am in a code unit. I'm in a code unit. So I can pass myself on to another function. I can also use this to qualify variables. In this case, I have a parameter called variable, but I also have a code unit variable called variable. So I can qualify this one by adding this to it. And now we can easily see that this variable here is no longer used because I qualified this one to be referencing this variable instead. There is a code analyzer if you want to force this prefixes for wherever it's needed. You can choose to add it to your code rules. Default, it's hidden, but it will give you a code action that has the ability to change for a single instance and, of course, for document, project, and workspace, as we are getting used to for these code fixes. Clicking it for this instance will just add this to the property here. Okay. A brand new thing in this release is the resources. There's a new method under the nav app type called getResource, taking in a resource name and a stream that you want to have the resource data in. There's a whole session on that also. Go check that out. It's a very interesting feature that will help you ship resources with your app. For those of you who are keen at spotting differences between versions, you'll find that there's a new method in the session information type called AI tokens used. Also a part of our effort to do more AI. So not quite ready yet for consumption, and you'll get an error like the other one we saw earlier, that this one is not ready for use yet. So more to come later. For the HTTP client, there's a new method. You can now do patch easily. And the patch is the update part of a CRUD operation, where you can send a delta of changes to a service, and then it will apply those to the resource that you're trying to patch. This is just an easy way to get to that method, so that will help you build simple logic for that. Let's end on something that may be controversial for some. The ternary operator has been added to the AL language. It's very common in many languages, and it has a way of simplifying the if-else statements. It consists of a condition, and then something to do if it's true, and something to do if it's false. So if we look at this code here, we can see a classic if statement here. If we have some state, then the expression is unfavorable. And we can see the use of ternary operator here, where we say the style is if some state is closed, then if that's true, then it's favorable. If it's false, then it's ambiguous. So here I condensed the if statement into a single line instead of having if it's closed, then favorable, else ambiguous, right? Of course, this can quickly become very convoluted if you misuse it. And here's a small example that doesn't even show how complicated it can be, but it does show that it can quickly become quite complicated. If we look at this statement here at the bottom line, if it's blocked, then it's unfavorable. If it's closed, then it's favorable, otherwise ambiguous. Just 3 statements here, or 3 different values here, can make this line unreadable, or at least difficult to read for new people. So use this feature with some consideration and with some thought on how to maintain code in the future. The ternary operator can be very powerful if you use it right. On that cliffhanger, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.